Hey guys, it's Royce here from David and Royce. I've always enjoyed watching YouTubers like Madrybread and Smallland take on Pokemon challenges. Now that we have this platform, I thought it'd be the perfect time to take a crack at them for your entertainment. So today I'm going to see if it's possible to beat Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl using only baby Pokemon. Baby Pokemon, by definition, are classified as such so long as they respect the following three criteria. Must be obtainable by breeding, must be the lowest form in a family chain and must be able to evolve at least once, must belong to the undiscovered egg group. One look at the list of baby Pokemon shows much to be desired, and a look at their stats is terrifying, ranging from 190 base stats to 390. Which means that my weakest possible team member would be weaker than a Caterpie, and the strongest would have less base stats than a Whalmer. Now, to go over the rules of the challenge. I can only use baby Pokemon in battle. Items can be used only outside of battle, excluding held items. This is going to be a glitchless run, and it's not a Nuzlocke. And finally, the friendship mechanic gives me a sort of unfair advantage. So every time I benefit from it, I will at least try to waste a turn or even homie stock depending on the situation. I started the run by taking Turtwig from the briefcase. I took Turtwig because I'm not talented enough to change the starter Pokemon to a specific Pokemon. That being said, I took Turtwig because the first baby Pokemon, which I can obtain over at the next town, is Badoo. And by choosing Turtwig, it would make the challenge harder for me since my rival will be taking Chimchar to counter me. Badoo at a first glance seems like a decent Pokemon. Its stats are literally in the middle of the pack of all baby Pokemon in existence. But when you look up its level up moves, it's seriously bad. It only learns 4 moves by level up. Growth and Stun Spore are definitely handy, but Absorb is the only attacking move and it has a base power of just 20. For this reason, I decided to nickname the Badoo Doo-Doo because it's terrible. Rival time. He leads with his level 7 Starly. I try to fire off a Stun Spore but get hit by a Quick Attack first before missing. Then I land my move, successfully paralyzing, and it pays dividends immediately as the Starly is already fully paralyzed and unable to make its move. I take this chance to begin setting up my growth as Starly begins to use Growl, which is fine by me. I sneak in a few more growths thanks to some paralysis luck and max out my special attack. Then I begin mashing Absorb, taking out the Starly in 2 hits. Next comes Chimchar, who I was dreading. Fortunately, he goes for Scratch on turn 1, followed by not 1, not 2, but 3 Leers, giving me enough time to take it down and fully heal myself in the process. I'm honestly shocked that I made it past the rival battle so easily, but the game probably felt bad for me, so I'll take what I can get. Then I find Rourke playing with rocks in a cave, make him go back, and begin the first gym battle of the challenge. He leads with his level 12 Geodude. I begin to set up growths as he starts using Defense Curl. I continue increasing my stats as Rourke goes on the offensive with a rollout. I don't feel comfortable with how much damage he's done already, so I decide it's time to attack, OHKOing the Geodude with an Absorb. Rourke sends out Onix next, and I decide to get a little greedy and sneak in a growth. Onix is surprisingly faster than me and hits me with 2 rock throws before I begin my counter, triggering its 30. Rourke then uses a potion to recover Onix, which is fine by me because it means that I'll be able to recover my health as well by way of Absorb. Finally, Rourke sends out his ace, Cranidos. Even though I have the type advantage, Cranidos can hit really hard, so I go on the offensive from the get-go as he goes for a Leer on turn 1. I bring him down to very little health as Rourke goes for the heal, and I finish him off with my Absorb, securing the victory and earning me the Coal Badge. Next up, the professor personally asks me to teach the miscreants some manners. There isn't much I can do in this matchup. Even though this battle was pretty easy, it was also an indicator of my potential struggles in the road ahead, as I virtually did nothing in that fight. And that was Badoo at its best, with a 6 level advantage. And as my luck would have it, I have a lot of Team Galactic stuff to do right now, and I have to do it with just my Badoo. Now, I make my way to Floroma, and I gotta drape on my superhero cape and save this girl's papa from space aliens. So I begin to very slowly clear out the grunts guarding the facility, got the work key, and now I can take down their leader, Commander Mars. Mars leads with the Zubat, which is already a tough matchup for us. We lead with a Stun Spore and immediately get lucky with paralysis. I decide to start setting up on Zubat as it goes for the U-turn, immediately bringing out a Purugly. It goes for the fake out and follows it up with a Scratch, which brings Badoo down to red. Absorb virtually does nothing and we lose the battle. That was horrendous. We lost the battle in less than 2 minutes. It's time to grind. Just to show off how little damage Badoo does, here's a fight against a wild Shellos. Even though Shellos is thick with a few C's, we have the type advantage and are 9 levels higher. Even with that, we can only manage to 3-hit KO the Shellos with an Absorb. We try again at level 20 and it pretty much goes the same way. You turn into Purugly, who steamrolls through us. Time to grind again. At level 24 we try again. We get off a Stun Spore as Zubat runs to Mama Purugly. Fake Out makes us flinch on turn 1, but we get the Stun Spore turn 2 after Purugly hits us with a Thief. I decided to get in a Growth while Purugly went for the Growl. So I tried to sneak in another Growth and Purugly was fully paralyzed. I got cheeky and went for another Growth again, and again Purugly was fully paralyzed. So I went for a Growth a third time, and again Purugly was paralyzed. But our incredible paralysis luck came to an end when Purugly finally got to hit us with a Thief. I then go on the offensive and start hitting Purugly with Absorbs, and it was fully paralyzed again. This has to be my luckiest attempt because I've never had this much paralysis luck in my life. I continue my onslaught of Absorbs while Purugly finally gets to take away my Quick Claw with another Thief. Then we take down the Purugly with one final Absorb. Last is Zubat, and I decide to just keep hammering away at the Zubat with Absorb since I already have a solid amount of stacks up and eventually secure the dub. The RNG gods finally got tired of me trying to take on Mars and decided to throw me a bone because that match was absolutely riddled with insane paralysis luck. I can finally move on to Eterna City. In the past, I would have been stuck with Badu for a little while longer, but now it's different thanks to the changes made to the Grand Underground. In Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, you gain access to areas called Pokemon Hideaways, where you can find and catch wild Pokemon. Some may even have egg moves here. This new addition is huge for us, since we can find a wealth of baby Pokemon here. After a few minutes of re-rolling the spawns, I found my first underground baby Pokemon, Magby. It refuses to stay in the ball and actually knocks us out. After that embarrassing whiteout, we found another Magby, who knocks us out again. I actually had to go train against some Gastrodons to get my confidence up, and on our third Magby encounter, I am still struggling to stay afloat. But I finally get to catch it. I name it Minata. Thankfully, Smoochum, Chingling, and Cleffa were much easier to catch, who I name Frostitute, Chimichanga, and Samosa respectively. Then, I go to eradicate the entire Ghastly habitat for some XP and special attack EVs. While training, I found a Togepi, which was unexpected. I caught it and named it Chegg because as much as I want to use it, I can't afford to. Alright, gym time. Gardenia leads with the Cherubi as I send out Magby. I use a Flame Wheel and get the instant knockout. She then sends out Turtwig, who also instantly goes down to a Flame Wheel. Finally, she sends out her ace, Roserade. It hits us hard with a Petal Blizzard, but we hit back harder, bringing it down to red. Its Citrus Berry pops off, which is actually a good thing as it brings it out of potion range. They bring us down to red with another Petal Blizzard, but we counter with a Flame Wheel, getting the knockout and winning the fight. After that, we easily clear out Galactic Tower with our new squad, taking down Commander Jupiter and rescuing the bike shop owner in the process. He then rewards us with our choice of a bike. Try guessing which colored bike I chose in the comments below. Then we head on over to Hearthome City, meet our mom at the contest hall, and then it's time to fight our rival. We have a big level advantage, so we pretty much sweep through his team. After that, we head east of Hearthome to Route 209 to catch a Bonsly, which we name September. Then, I make my way over to Veilstone City, bought a bunch of TMs to teach to the team. I thought this gym would be easy with a Cleffa on the squad, but it can't even learn Dazzling Gleam and I have no clue why. So I'm stuck with Disarming Voice as its only stab move. But before fighting the gym leader, I struggled to fight even against the gym trainers, so after a bit of leveling up, I decide to take on Maylene. I lead with Cleffa to counter Maylene's meta type. Annoyingly, she sets up a light screen, but Disarming Voice does a surprising amount of damage. Even after recovering some health from a Drain Punch, we manage to take down the meta type with a second Disarming Voice. Machoke is up next and it hits us hard with a knockoff. We manage to bring it down to half health with a Psychic before going down to a Bulldoze. After comparing speeds, I decide to send out Magby and use Psychic, bringing Machoke down to a sliver of health before getting taken down again by Bulldoze. I go into Smoochum and fire off an Ice Beam, taking down Maylene's second Pokemon. She sends out her ace, Lucario, who loses a little less than half of its health to a Psychic, then KOs Smoochum with a Metal Claw. I send out Chegg, but it doesn't even stand a chance. So next up is Badu, who dodges a Metal Claw thanks to the power of friendship. But that gets cancelled out when I miss a Stun Spore. We then get hit by a Screech and land a Stun Spore, which was important since it was faster than the rest of my team. Then, I go for a Dazzling Gleam, almost taking it out when Lucario hits us with a hard Metal Claw, getting an attack boost in the process. I decide to keep firing off Dazzling Gleams until we get KO'd. And since we survived on the friendship mechanic, I stall with growth until Badoo gets taken down, since it should have gone down before. I send out Chingling and go for a Psychic, taking down the last Pokemon, securing the 3rd gym badge. After helping Dawn out with some more story related stuff, we head over to Pastoria City, where we begin our next gym challenge against Crash Away. This dude is 100% the coolest looking gym leader by far. We start the battle facing his Gyarados with our Cleffa. It's at this point I realize that I forgot to teach my Pokemon Grass Knot. Things take a turn for the worse when I get frozen on turn 1, but fortunately thaw out immediately and hit back with a Psychic. After exchanging Ice Fang and Psychic again, Crash Awake goes for a heal, and we bring it down to a little under half, then go down. Next up is Smoochum, and we clean up with an Ice Beam. Quagsire comes out next, and I decide I need to safely switch into Badoo, so I send out September, who goes down to 1 Mud Shot. Badoo then comes out safely, and I get the instant knockout with a critical absorb. Even with friendship at play, I don't think the results would have changed. Floatzel then goes for an Ice Fang, which we somehow survive, and we get off the paralysis. We hit hard with an absorb and then get a clutch paralysis, which lets me get off another critical absorb, getting the knockout and landing us the 4th gym badge. Even though the critical hit was thanks to friendship, we would have still been able to win without it, since we had recovered enough from absorb to live another Ice Fang and then take it out right after. While trying to chase down a Galactic Grunt, a rival decides now would be a good time to have a battle, and I easily breeze through his team with just my Cleffa. I got the secret medicine from Cynthia and played Doctor with a group of Psyducks. Before moving on, I backtracked to the trophy garden where I caught a Pichu that I named Zapapui. Even though Pichu is complete trash, this is the only electric type Pokemon I can get in this run, so I'm hoping it would have some usefulness. I then did some more story stuff, went to the underground and caught a Munchlax, which I named Slumberjack. Gym time. Fantina leads with her Drift Blim, so we hit with an Ice Beam and immediately get the knockout. Next up is Gengar, who outspeeds and KOs Smoochum with 1 Shadow Claw. I send out Badoo to paralyze the Gengar and slow it down since it outspeeds everything on my team. I then switch into Cleffa to go for a Psychic, but immediately get taken down by a Sludge Bomb. Then I switch into Magby and go for a super effective Psychic, knocking it down to a 3rd health while Gengar was fully paralyzed. Fantina goes for the heal, and I hit Gengar with 2 flamethrowers, knocking it out. Miss Magius is up next, and it gets off a Confuse Ray, but we fight through it and land a flamethrower. Quick Claw triggers, and we come up big again with the flamethrower, but she goes for Phantom Force. I debated on switching into Munchlax, but decide to stay in and land a critical flamethrower, getting the win, securing the 4th gym badge. We then make our way to Canalave City, where we fought the rival again. He hasn't made much improvement, so we plow through his team easily. After clearing the gym trainers, I take on Byron next. He leads with a Bronzor, so we try to Sucker Punch, but it fails since he goes for a Trick Room. It fails again the next turn when he sets up Sandstorm, and again when he goes for Confuse Ray. We finally land a hit as he knocks us to less than half health with Flash Cannon. We land another Sucker Punch before going down to Flash Cannon again. After that, I send out Magby and knock out the Bronzor with a Flamethrower. Next up is Steelix, and I decide to send out Badoo as he sets up another Sandstorm. I land a Stun Spore and he almost KOs me with an Earthquake. I go for a weak Absorb as he finishes me off with Gyro Ball, but he misses because of friendship, so I homie stock on the next turn and go down. I send out Slumberjack next and go for a Brick Break, which does little damage, and he hits back harder with an Earthquake. I switch up my strategy and go for the Flamethrower as he knocks us out with another Earthquake. Once again, it's up to Magby to clean up, but not before Byron uses a full restore. Next he sends out his ace, Bastiodon. I try to go for a low kick as it drops it in the red, where it triggers its Citrus Berry. He counters with a Stone Edge, instantly knocking out the Magby. I go into Pichu to get off a Nuzzle and go down. Next I send out Smoochum and go for an Ice Beam that does nothing, and I actually lose this fight. I know I can win this battle without having to go train, I just have to make a few tweaks to the team and I should be golden. I try again, but this time I lead with Magby and go into Flamethrower, and it barely survives and sets up Trick Room. I go for another Flamethrower as he uses a full restore, bringing him into the red. He heals again as we hit hard again with Flamethrower. I'm fine with him stalling with heals and non-attacking moves as he stalls out Trick Room turns. After we take down Bronzor, he sends out Steelix. I then switch into Chingling, my Pichu replacement, anticipating the Earthquake, and use Yawn. I go for a Psychic and it knocks it down to a quarter of its health as it hits us hard with a Gyro Ball. I use this chance to switch into Magby since Steelix is sleeping and blast it with a flamethrower, taking it down. Last up is Bastiodon, and I decide to switch into Chingling, sacrificing it to safely switch into Munchlax. I waste no time and go for a Brick Break, and it gets hit hard by a critical Stone Edge. I then try to go for the kill with a flamethrower, and it does nothing as we get hit by another critical Stone Edge. Byron then decides to finish us off with a Stone Edge, and I decide to go into Magby for a low kick, taking the behemoth down for the victory. After literally surviving through some more story stuff, I decide to go and get the egg from Riley. We actually got Adamant Nature on it too, so we should definitely be dishing out a lot of damage. After that, I easily cleared out Team Galactic from the lakes and went straight for Snow Point City, where I got bodied by a children's puzzle. But then I finally got to challenge the gym leader Candace. I lead with Munchlax to counter her Snover. I set up a workup and went straight to work, knocking out the Snover with a flamethrower. Next was Medicham, so I switched into Cleffa, who immediately gets knocked down to red before going down to an Ice Punch. Or at least it would've if it didn't tough it out so I wouldn't be sad. After taking a homie stock, I switched into Badoo. I thought I'd be able to outspeed, but I only ended up getting knocked out immediately. Munchlax didn't do any better as a Brick Break sent it packing. This isn't looking too good, so I decide to send out Magby and fortunately outspeed the Medicham, melting it with a flamethrower. Next up is Sneasel, and it goes for Dig right away. So I switch into Riolu, and it immediately gets taken down since it was a pretty low level. I send out Smoochum hoping for some miracle, but Sneasel shreds that dream up with a Metal Claw. All that's left is Magby, and somehow he survives a dig and goes for a low kick but couldn't get the kill. And then I miraculously outspeed the Sneasel and then end up taking it down with a flamethrower. Last up is Abomasnow. With a hope and a prayer, I fire one last flamethrower and actually manage to squeak a victory. That was too close for comfort, but a dub's a dub. And then it's time for some more story stuff, so I make my way over to Galactic headquarters where I absolutely mop the floor with every single Galactic grunt there is, including their leader, with just a Bonsly. Once that was taken care of, I climbed to the peak of Mount Coronet and listened to Cyrus spread some more of his sad boy vibes. After easily taking down Commander Jupiter and Mars, I begin the final battle against Team Galactic. I lead with Bonsly to counter Cyrus's Honchkrow, who misses a Steel Wing and gets hit by a big Rock Tomb. He then goes for a questionable Defog as I finish it off with another Rock Tomb. Then he sends out Gyarados, who drops our attack stat thanks to its Intimidate. So I switch into Riolu, who is still too weak to do anything other than help me safely switch into Munchlax. He goes for an Ice Fang as I hit back with a Body Slam. We exchange Ice Fangs and Body Slams again and again until he goes for a full restore as I continue Body Slamming. Then he finishes me off with a Waterfall. Next I send out my Smoochum to get in a good hit with Ice Beam before going down to a big crunch. Next I send out Magby and finish it off with a Psychic. He counters by sending Weavile out next, who goes for a Dig. I switch into Badoo, hoping to safely switch into Bonsly. Then after Badoo goes down, I send out Bonsly as Weavile burrows underground. It hits hard, but I manage to hit it for half its health with Rock Tomb. I try to sneak in a quick Sucker Punch before going down to a Dig, or I should have, but I survived due to friendship, so I stalled out until Weavile managed to finally take down September. And then at last, it's up to Magby, and thanks to Rock Tomb dropping Weavile's speed, I was able to outspeed it and knock it out with a Flamethrower. His last Pokemon was Crobat, who hit us hard with a Cross Poison, but we got the Clutch Burn to cut its attack in half, and then hit it just as hard with a Psychic. Cyrus gets lucky with a critical Cross Poison, ignoring the stats drop. But we managed to survive by the skin of our teeth and finish it off with a Psychic. That was definitely harder than my last battle with Cyrus, not even 20 minutes ago, but we managed to get the win. Now that we're finally done with all the story related stuff, we can focus on trying to finish this challenge. I tracked down the sad boy gym leader at Sunyshore City and challenged him. To start the battle, Volkner sends out his Raichu. We lead with a Munchlax and go for a Body Slam, but not before he Volt switches into an Ambipom. It flinches us on turn 1, but we finish it off with a Body Slam after nearly going down from one of its double hits. He sends out Raichu again, who once again goes for a Volt Switch to finish us off, and then he switches into his Octillery. To counter, I send out Badoo and go for a super effective Grass Knot that deals big damage to the Octillery. He goes for Focus Energy, which gives us an opening to finish it off with another Grass Knot for the easy knockout. Raichu comes back out and goes for a Volt Switch again, but misses thanks to the power of friendship, and we end up hitting him with a Dazzling Gleam. I try to waste a turn to homie stock by going for an absorb, but he misses Volt Switch again. Finally, on the 4th attempt, he switches out to Luxray, who gets welcomed by Badoo's absorb. Luxray then goes for an Ice Fang, KOing Badoo. Next up is September, who goes for a Sucker Punch and nearly goes down to an Iron Tail. I manage to get off one more Sucker Punch, triggering its Citrus Berry, then survive again because of friendship. At this point, I don't really have much choice but to waste turns until Luxray can land a hit to finish us off. I send out Frostitute, hoping I can deal some big damage with Ice Beam, but I get outsped and knocked out immediately with a critical Iron Tail. Magby comes out and both Pokemon nearly knock each other out. Volkner goes for the heal, and I knock its health down to under a half and then finish it off with one last Flamethrower. Volkner sends out Raichu, who finishes it off with a Surf. Last up is Joker, and I go for a Bulldoze, but I get outsped by Raichu's Volt Switch, losing the battle. I know that I can win this fight, I just have to strategize and keep trying until I get it right. Sad boy time again. I anticipate the Volt Switch and go for Body Slam. Fake Out hits us hard, then Thunderbolt didn't do too much as we take down the Ambipom with a Body Slam. Raichu comes back out and we all know what's coming, so I go for another Body Slam and hit the Octillery hard. This time, I don't switch out to Badoo. Octazooka misses, and we finish it off with another Body Slam. Shockingly, Raichu comes back out, and this time I go for a Bulldoze since Volkner's last Pokemon is a Luxray, and it would do a decent amount after Intimidate and lower its speed in the process. I go for another Bulldoze, and luckily Iron Tail misses, so we bring him down to half and trigger his Citrus Berry. Then, he finally manages to take down our first Pokemon with an Ice Fang. Joker is up next, and I go for a super effective Bulldoze, thinking it would finish it off, but we did so little and get KO'd right after by a Thunder Fang. Now Frostitute comes out and finishes off the Luxray with a big Ice Beam. Last up is his so-called trump card, and I get hit hard by Volt Switch, but I hit even harder with an Ice Beam. He goes for a full restore as I continue Ice Beaming away, eventually getting the knockout. All that's left is taking down the Pokemon League and becoming the champion. But before that, we have to take down the rival. So I expected this fight to go the usual way. Take down his whole team with just one Pokemon and then call it a day. But no, this fight was surprisingly hard. Like, really hard. By the end of this fight, I bring him down to his last Pokemon, which sounds like I did well, but it doesn't paint a picture on how the whole fight really went down, where I would need to strategize with 2 or 3 Pokemon to take down just one of his. On the other hand, he was just bulldozing through my whole team. I threw myself at him again and again 16 times, and even with insane luck, I never got close to winning. This meant I had to grind and re-strategize, because what I was doing clearly wasn't working. The issue was that I was outsped by the Infernape and Heracross, and didn't have anyone to tank a hit from them. My only tank was Munchlax, who is weak to both of the rivals fighting type Pokemon. The solution to this problem was actually in my PC. Right before I challenged Volkner, I caught a Mantike, who had good typing and bulk to counter his Infernape and Heracross. So I switched out Badoo for Mantike, who couldn't do much in this battle, and trained all of my Pokemon to at least level 50 and tried again. We counter his lead Staraptor with Bondslide. I get hit with a decent pluck and hit back harder with a Rock Slide. We then got hit hard by a close combat, but knocked it out with a Rock Tomb. Next up was Infernape, and I got the Quick Claw Rock Tomb off and dropped its speed by 1 stage, before going down to a close combat. Since Infernape was now slower and had its defenses drop because of close combat, I went into Magby and I instantly knocked it out with a Psychic. Then came out Heracross, who I was finally able to outspeed and incinerated it with a big Flamethrower. Floatzel was up next, so I went into our newest member, Mr. Ray the Mantike. Now that we don't have Badoo, I have to chip away at Floatzel with Mr. Ray before I can bring out Munchlax and get the kill with Thunderbolt. Then came Big Brother Snorlax, who sends us crying back to mom with a Hammer-On. Joker comes out next, lands a huge Drain Punch, and then gets yawned. I use Drain Punch again, knocking it out. Then I go to sleep thanks to Yawn, and go face to face with Roserade, who sets up grassy terrain, and then takes us down with the Giga Drain. Frostitute comes out next, gets poisoned by Toxic, then takes down the Roserade with an Ice Beam, and after a tough battle, we secure the victory against our rival. Finally, it's the first member of the Elite Four, and it's not even close. I managed to take down the Dustox with a critical Flamethrower and then proceed to get bodied by the Heracross. I knew the Elite Four was going to be a different beast altogether with their competitive build, but this was insane. I whited out to the first member of the Elite Four, and he didn't even throw his whole team at us. Just this gutsy, slightly burned Beetle. After many attempts, I decide to train because there's no way I can beat him without seriously overleveling. After getting the team to at least level 70, we attempt Aeron again, with Magby as our lead. Even though we are 23 levels higher, we still failed to OHKO the Dustox with a flamethrower as it poisons us with toxic. After fully healing, we KO Dustox thanks to Metronome increasing our damage every time we use a move consecutively. We end up outspeeding and taking down the dreaded Heracross in one move, as well as the Beautifly and the Vespa Queen that follow. Last up is the monster Drapion, who still outspeeds and knocks us out with an Earthquake. So I send out Slumberjack, who loses a little less than half to Night Slash, and then takes out a little under half with Body Slam. He then hits us with a weak Cross Poison as we bring him down to red with another Body Slam. After a full restore, we bring him to almost half again, get the paralysis, fully paralyze, then KO the Drapion, finally winning the fight against just the first member of the Elite Four. Right before challenging Ground Agatha, we fully heal the entire team and then change our lead to Badoo. We then proceed to easily knock out the Quagsire with a Grass Knot. Next up is Whiscash, so I anticipate the Bulldoze and freely switch into Mantike, who easily takes down Whiscash with a Surf followed by a Hydro Pump. Sudowoodo goes down to an easy Surf, but Golem hits us hard with a Stone Edge. Frostitude is up next, and Golem goes down to 1 HP thanks to Sturdy and knocks us out with a Heavy Slam. Magby comes out next, and we clean up with a low kick on Golem. And then go down to Hippowdon's Earthquake. We send out Badoo and use Grass Knot, easily getting us the victory against Bertha. We challenge Flint, who has the second best Afro in all of Pokemon. Try guessing who has first place in that category. And while you do that, Hypnosis fails to land, so we KO the Rapidash with an Earthquake. Lopunny also misses its high jump kick, and then it goes down to one hit as well. We take down Steelix to half with Drain Punch before going down to an Iron Tail. Next we send out Mantike and flood the field with Surf, taking down the Steelix. Driftblim then misses its Will-O-Wisp as we hit hard with an Ice Beam. It lands its next one and then goes down to one last Ice Beam. Last up is Infernape, and we bring it down to 1 HP with a quick Claw Hydro Pump before going down to a Thunder Punch. Slumberjack comes out next, and Body Slams on the turn he uses a full restore. And for whatever reason, he goes for a weak Fire Punch instead of close combat, and we take full advantage of that with one last Body Slam. That battle was insanely lucky, with all the natural misses with Hypnosis and High Jump Kick, as well as the questionable Fire Punch. Next is Psychic E4 member Lucian, who leads with Mr. Mime. I decide to send out Badoo, because this is the only Pokemon it would do fairly decent against. After getting the poison on a Sludge Bomb in turn 1, we go down to a Psychic. Mime then sets up a Reflect, which we break down with a Brick Break, also breaking down the light screen he set up on the first turn. We go for a Body Slam, taking him down after Poison whittled it down. Next is Medicham, and we instantly get knocked out with a High Jump Kick. We send out Frostitude and get the instant knockout with Shadow Ball. Girafarig comes out next, and it forces me to switch my Smoochum out for my Magby since I'm locked into Shadow Ball thanks to choice specs. We get off a Confuse Ray before Trick Room gets set up, then lose about a third of our health to a Psychic before getting a burn with Flamethrower. This exchange continues again and again until we survive on Friendship again. So I try to Homie Stock, but he goes for a full restore, so I try to bring its health back before finally going down. Joker is up next, and it hits with an Earthquake after it fully restores. I then switch out to the tanky Mr. Ray, who absolutely eats up Girafarig's Psychic, then goes for a Quick Claw Hydro Pump and gets the knockout. Alakazam comes out next and knocks us out with a Shockwave. We retaliate by sending out Smoochum and get the instant KO with Shadow Ball. Bronzong is last, and we almost OHKO it with a Shadow Ball, and it counters with a Gyro Ball, taking us down. Riolu comes out next and cleans up with a Shadow Claw, securing the victory against the fourth and final E4 member. Last up is Cynthia, and this is going to be tough. We start with Mr. Ray and land a big Hydro Pump. We go for another Hydro Pump, and she actually hard switches into a Gastrodon, triggering a Storm Drain. In a panic, I switch into Badoo and go for a Quick Claw Grass Knot, bringing it down to a third before almost going down to an Earthquake. One more Grass Knot finishes it off as she sends out Spiritomb again. I go for a Dazzling Gleam, bringing it down to red, and then go down to a Psychic. I send out Mr. Ray again and get hit by a Sucker Punch and then finish it off with a Hydro Pump. She sends out Roserade next and it cleans up with a Sludge Bomb. I send out Magby and it gets outsped and goes down to almost red health, but it gets the kill on a critical Flamethrower. Milotic comes out next, gets hit with a Confuse Ray but fights through it to take us down with a Scald. Slumberjack comes out next and I get hit with a weak Ice Beam and begin to set up some workups. I begin going to work with Thunderbolt, bringing it down to half health. As I bring it dangerously close to death, she uses Mirror Coat, taking me down, then surviving on 1 HP. I then send out Frostitude, use Psychic, and bring her down to nearly half as she heals with a full restore. I go for another Psychic, bring it down to red again, but this time it goes down thanks to Bird. Lucario comes out and immediately takes down the remainder of my team. That was insanely hard. I don't know how I can ever outspeed the Lucario even if I overlevel like crazy, let alone survive a hit from her Garchomp who we didn't even see in this fight. At level 80, I try again, and although I was able to take down 5 out of her 6 Pokemon, the results were pretty much the same. At level 90, I try again. I lead with Mantike and get hit by a Sucker Punch, then land a big Hydro Pump triggering its Citrus Berry. Then I try to hard switch on Cynthia, anticipating the Gastrodon, but she just goes for another Sucker Punch and then goes down to a super effective Dazzling Gleam. Then she sends out her Milotic and I jump straight into Grass Knot while losing half my health to a big Ice Beam. I keep going for Grass Knots though, eventually getting the knockout. Next up is Gastrodon, who immediately goes down to a ×4 super effective Grass Knot. Roserade comes out after that and we finally go down to a Sludge Bomb. Next I send out Magby and go for a Flamethrower, instantly melting it. Lucario comes out after that, but it follows the same sequence as well. Finally, it's her last Pokemon, Garchomp. She hits us hard with an Earthquake, but we survive on Friendship and hit with Flamethrower. I then go ahead and waste the next turn to Homie Stock. After that, I bring out my answer for Garchomp, Mr. Ray. I land a huge Ice Beam, bringing it down to red health, as she goes for a heal, but then instantly gets knocked out by my Ice Beam, getting us the victory and making us the first remake Sinnoh champion with a team of only baby Pokemon in just over 69 hours. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the subscribe button as it helps us out a lot. We play games and react to shows often. So yeah,